Good morning, guys. Sorry I couldn't be with you yesterday. Had a really long work day yesterday. I think 11 hours, 10 or 11 hours. It was a long one. So didn't have time to stop and do our study today. I thought I would do it. It's a Thursday. I know that. So we'll just do it today. Had an amazing day Sunday. Did a homecoming message at a church that was definitely the best 3.5 years of ministry for me back in the 90s. Um, that church is still going strong. It was a full church, it was packed, still the same faces, and there were many more new faces. So uh, thankful for their pastor and for their congregation. Just wonderful day. And of course, their food was amazing as well. Um, Great stuff. Got to see so many dear saints that I miss already. Really, really miss them. But I know that all good things except for heaven come to an end. Heaven will not. And so just makes heaven sweeter. Being able to have weekends like that just makes me long for home, doesn't it? Okay, well, great opportunity to be with you today. We're in Revelation 17. This is a um, chapter talking about, as we've already done 16, where the mark of the beast folks are destroyed, and now we're going to talk about that first beast made up of the government with uh, what we call the government or the sea beast, which has a woman riding upon it, and kind of deep symbolism here, a lot of rich symbolism. Pretty simple, pretty simple, but definitely easy to get lost in it, trying to figure out who is who. There's some kings involved. There's this woman riding on the beast. There's the beast itself. It can get kind of confusing, but it's really hopefully by the end. Hi, Miss Susie. Praising our God. That's awesome. Greetings to you. And it's good to be back with you today. I'm glad you're on board here. I think every time I get on here, every single time I think there are so many more capable Bible teachers. I'm not trying to get on and be another great Bible teacher. I firmly believe that God puts ministries together, and we shouldn't beg and plead and borrow and steal people from other Bible studies and try to show that we know more or better. I just know that God has put our group together, and there might be a dozen, maybe 20 that get on over the course of the week and listen. And I'm tickled to death to have that group that I believe God has brought together for these times that I do on Wednesday and Friday. And you watch them when you can. And Susie, I'm so glad to see your name pop up among so many that do get to get with us. So I hope you have your sword ready. Revelation chapter 17. And what an interesting bunch of words here that uh, have a pretty exciting as we go toward the end of Revelation. It's the enemies of God being destroyed. The vengeance that the Lord promises actually does come true. Then one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls came and spoke with me, saying, "Come here, I will show you the judgment of the great harlot who sits on many waters." Well, remember, that's the beast of the sea came out of the water. So, with whom the kings of the earth committed acts of immorality, and those who dwell on the earth were made drunk with the wine of her immorality. I don't think this means all the different kings that literally are sitting on thrones. First of all, there aren't very many. It would be silly, I think, for us to start saying, okay, it's the kings that are influencing everyone's behavior. Kings don't have that kind of influence, but these kings represent the things that rule our lives. I think as we go through here, you'll see this more plainly. The kings of the earth committed acts of immorality, and those who dwell on the earth were made drunk with the wine of her immorality. So we see the harlot in bed with a government that has kings. So that would be a country that has great influence, that can give the people sensual entertainment, distractions from God, that lead to attacking Christianity. Are you with me so far? Okay. Based on everything we've done before, you can go back and watch all the Bible studies we've had before in Revelation. But I believe that's where we have come to now. And he carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast. All right, they're together, right? Full of blasphemous names. There's that blasphemy against God. Having 7 heads and 10 horns. Okay, so heads would have to do with influence. The horns would have to do with power, and they're in bed together. So obviously, if you want to influence people, then you would need to be where the most powerful and the most lucrative nation is, because there's how you would peddle your goods, is that you have the resources to do it, right? You're not going to go, well, I don't want to go down that road yet. Verse 4, the woman was clothed in purple and scarlet. There's her royalty, right? And adorned with gold and precious stones, pearls, having in her hand a gold cup full of abominations and of the unclean things of her immorality. And on her forehead a name was written, a mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of the harlots and of the abominations of the earth. Okay. Pretty intimidating, I think. Intimidating. You start reading it, you say, there's no way I could possibly understand this. This is not that deep. It is not. You already know exactly what this means. There, you don't have to start to say, well, I guess I need a theology degree to get all of this. No, you don't. No, you don't. You've already dealt with this 1,000 times over. We're seeing it every day. It is not the adulterous church. Lots of reasons for that. I can give you the resources if you want to go down that road. What is the adulterous church? Where there are times Jesus will talk about to the Pharisees, you're fake Christians. You're professing one thing, but you actually practice another. It's a whole nother conversation in other passages. That's not this situation. So it's not the fake church. It's not going into a church and seeing people profess one thing, practice another, not preaching the gospel. That's not what's going on here. Now, those things are the result of this. The love of money. The church is a place to go get some money. There's a lot of hireling preachers out of John 10. There are hirelings. They're not called because they are a part of Babylon. They're a part of the harlot. They love influence. They want people to write books about them. They want people to say their name. They want to go into a crowded room and everybody to know who they are. They come into churches to try to take over. They want to be the head of the trustees, the head of the deacons. They want to take over the building. They want to take over the kitchen area so they can sell their goods. They want to control the place because they love control. They love it. They go around bad mouthing all other people that have other ideas in their church, and they influence them and run people off and say, why are those people here at my church? And all that kind of garbage that goes on. Now, that isn't in and of itself what we're talking about, but that is the result. That's what's yielded from this stuff right here. Okay. So let's don't just jump straight to that. Let's just unpack this a little bit more and you'll see what I'm talking about. So verse 6, and I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints. So this woman that we already know to be riding on the beast, what is she doing? Well, she's all of the creature comforts that are taken to an extreme. Now, I said that on purpose. I want you to hear what I'm saying. It is not wrong to have comforts or pleasures. It's not wrong to bite into a juicy apple and to eat the apple. It's when your pleasures replace God, like Romans chapter 1. They didn't worship the creator, they worshiped the created thing. So God gave them a reprobate mind. It's exactly what's going on here. People today don't want to work. They don't want to work. Adam and Eve were given the job to tend the garden before there was a fall. God always intended on us working, but people have sluggardness. They're lazy. There's a saying today, TGIF. They're thanking God that it's Friday. They're living for the weekend. They can't wait to do nothing. Now, is it wrong to rest? I certainly hope not. God made a day of rest, right? So it's not wrong to rest. But that becomes someone's goal, is just to rest and not work. Are you with me so far? Eating can be, you can have what the Bible calls the God of your stomach. You can live to eat rather than eat to live. We're easy targets in commerce, and we're going to talk about that. That's exactly what's coming up. That's one of the kings: commerce, or art, or entertainment, luxuries, pleasures. Those are the kings of our society. Those are what really control us. When we vote for a president, who are we voting for? We're voting for those that can make our life better and easier. Now, if we're not careful, we vote for a president that can make our life, we almost start to believe, a pipe dream. Well, I want a president that can make my life so super easy, there's no more trouble. There's no more need for me to work 1.5 jobs. There's no more need for me to have to be burdened, or to have to pay for health care, or to have to pay for this or that or the other. I want someone that's going to give me a free pass in this life away from suffering. And there's just no such thing. And we start to make a God out of politics. We start to make a God out of our candidate. So the woman she's offering something that makes them drunk. And again, the imagery here is not drinking, it's getting drunk on the drinking, right? That's the idea. It says, I wondered greatly. And the angel said to me, why do you wonder? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carries her, which has 7 heads and 10 horns. Once again, we're reminded of the heads and the horns. The power that this woman yields is unbelievable. It's It's so influential. People are getting drunk on it constantly where they can't even think straight. We are drunk on this woman's goods. So the beast that you saw was and is not and is about to come up out of the abyss and go to destruction. All right. So the beast, which is this government, is about to be destroyed. All governments that are anti-Christian are going to be destroyed. And throughout history, they've all been destroyed. You go back through Babylon and the Medes and the Persians, go back to the Assyrians before all that. They're all destroyed. We see Gideon destroying one group so easily. All they had was clay pots. Those are pictures for us today to see that governments, they stand and fall based on God's ordained sovereign allowance. God allows it to happen. So when God's ready, those governments just fall. They implode. They're destroyed. I mean, wiped off the face of the earth. Alexander the Great, he wept because there was no one left to conquer. And then they say that he killed himself. So these things don't last. And those who dwell on the earth, whose name has not been written in the book of the life from the foundation of the world, will wonder when they see the beast that he was and is not and will come. So the idea of all these, I think you can easily list from Assyrians to Mede, the Persians, the Greeks, the Babylonians, the Romans. You go back through these great governments that we have in history. No one argues that those were the greatest ones in history. And you sort of see this Greco-Roman culture has come back alive again. The same philosophies that they had, the same goals that they had, that led to such lasciviousness, such debauchery, it's here again today. From such luxury and such materialism, we now have adopted, and I sometimes listen to presidential debates, I listen to news analysis, and I say, wow, everyone's fighting for the same things that the Roman governments were fighting or provided for the people. I mean, we're so entertained. Anything wrong with entertainment? No. Anything wrong with a ball game? No. But taken too far, then we get drunk on it. We spend so much valuable time. It was my choice, doesn't have to be everybody's, but when my son Caleb was born, I put my golf clubs in a box and I taped them up. I ended up giving those golf clubs to Caleb when he got ready to go out and play. And then my daughters were born. I took my next set of golf clubs, I put those in a box and gave them to my son Nathan. I still have friends that go spend 2-3 times a week. They go spend 4 and 5 hours out in a field hitting a golf ball. And their kids are growing up. The days are going by fast. The sport, which used to be used by them to have some fun and relief, they wrap their club around a tree, they throw them in the water, they get angry, they get upset, but they go back for more and more and more. Then they end up betting on every hole to see how much money they can win, and they've lost control. What was a fun thing to do to get some relief has become, how can I show my buddies I'm the best player? How often can I play, to the detriment of their health and to their families? Now, that's not everybody. Just because somebody plays golf doesn't mean that they've taken it to an extreme. Just because someone is a big football fan and they enjoy watching football or baseball. But I'll tell you, more and more, it is getting to that point where that's, we buy our 70, 80-inch TVs and we just park behind it and watch it constantly. Now I'm saying watch it, get some relief, rest, get you a good beverage and and a good snack and sit and enjoy it. But watch what happens though when you get drunk on it. Whatever sport, whatever activity, entertainment, whatever freedom you're afforded, we even start voting for candidates that we think can give us more of that stuff we get drunk on. The government, as I always say, is there for one reason, that is to give us freedom to serve our God, protect us as we do so. Nothing more. They're not there to promise us a rose garden or provide us with one. Verse 9, here is the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits. In other words, she finds the greatest power and authority in the world and she sits on it. She uses that great power and authority. They are 7 kings. Now, what are those? Well, those are arts, that would be music, country music, rock and roll music, people worshiping music, worshiping musicians, listening to music, and they go to music to soothe their soul. Not saying God didn't give us music and that it doesn't have its place, but it replaces God. We find a place of worship and idolatry through musicians because they say the words that most appeal to us. And God gave us music, and music can be used to go straight down into the inner sanctum of your heart, and you can end up living your whole life based on music lyrics, whatever style that happens to be. And we replace God with those things. One of those kings might be entertainment. One of those kings could be pleasures. We talked about food. We talked about sexuality, pleasures of this life. Sluggardness, just sitting down, being lazy. Having an easy street to live on. Just watched a documentary of a woman that killed her husband because she needed to pay off the mansion that she bought. And she wanted to live that lifestyle so badly, she killed her husband. Put some fentanyl in his beverage. We see this all the time. If you don't believe me, watch 48 Hours. Watch Unsolved Mysteries. People kill other people or attempt to anyway. I've had attempts on my life. I've had obviously people that would have, because of the message I was preaching and the life that I was trying to advocate for. People wanted me out of the way. People would have done anything to get me out of the way. This is why they hate the church. These kings represent what the woman, the harlot, who is a pawn of the dragon, would have us to go after. This is Romans chapter 1, to the point where men exchange natural relations with women for other men, and vice versa, women for women. And they want that and desire it so badly that if a Christian who comes out and says, no, that's not God's economy, that's not God's way, they turn and hate them for it. I remember a conversation I had with a dear person that I love very much, and I feel as if I probably loved her as much or more than anybody because I had this conversation. I said, you're eating yourself to death. You can't take a whole bag of potato chips and dip it in ketchup and eat it. Eating ketchup with potato chips. Stop. Washing it down with a soda. Stop. Why are you turning to potato chips instead of to God? And they said back to me, well, if there was a God, why would he allow so much suffering? And I wouldn't stop. I love them too much to stop. Well, they hated me. And their family and friends now hate me and say deplorable things about me, horrible, awful things. Why? It's like getting between a she bear and her cubs. I had a preacher one time tell me, you probably do talk a little too much about sin. Well, I didn't talk about sin all the time as if I never sin and everybody else sins. I didn't do that. But I mentioned it because, guys, it's not that we're trying to be perfect. It's that our relationship with God depends on us just admitting that we're sinners, admitting that it is all of him, 100% of him, not of us. It's not I'll clean myself up so I go around as the moral police cleaning everybody up. It's that you mention it so that we can get in a right relationship with God. Because the number one thing these kings do here, and this woman does, is predicated upon people not believing they're bad people. I can't get you to overindulge if you don't believe you're overindulging. If I can't get you to see that you have a propensity to do these things to the point of worshiping them, like overdoing it with sports or overdoing it with entertainment, overdoing it with the love of money. If I can't get you to see that we all have this innate, natural proclivity toward overindulgence because of our sinfulness, then we will most definitely go after those things to the point of a blind eye. Our flesh will be so hungry for it, we will turn our backs completely on God. And that's the whole point. And that's what this chapter is saying. God is destroying this, but watch what happens. It's unbelievable, really. Verse 10, and they are 7 kings. 5 have fallen. One is, the other has not yet come. And when he comes, he must remain a little while. The beast which was and is not is himself also an 8th. Okay, so the beast himself is another country or another power that comes up. What makes this the beast is that it is a powerful entity, a nation that has these kings, arts, entertainment. This is not a new thing, guys. As I told you, the Roman government they built a Colosseum that kept the people under control, and they gave them welfare. They gave them a bunch of food. They threw Christians to lions. They had people fighting in the Colosseum, and they kept everyone with their their Olympics. They kept everybody entertained and well fed, and the people expected it. That's what they want. That's all they needed, was to keep the people under control. And so he says himself also an 8th of one of the 7, and he goes to destruction. So he's destroyed as well. The 10 horns, which you saw, are 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom, but they receive authority as kings with the beast for 1 hour. These have one purpose, and they give their power and authority to the beast. All that has to happen, guys, is that a government is set up. It then supplies luxury and commercialism It's creature comforts. Not that a person can go get land, grow some crops, have their own livestock, and live off of that, go pump the well and bring water out and bring it to the house and to even take a bath or what have you, or cook food. Now we're going to bring so many creature comforts that instead of thanking God for it, we thank politicians, we thank the government as if they created natural resources. And so now we are beholden to the point where we're not paying 2% taxes like in the beginning. Now we're paying 20, 30, 40, 50, 60% of our money to governments so that they then what? They can continue to lavish upon us. So guess who gets left out of all this? God. There's no reason to even consider God. That's why they didn't retain God in their knowledge. This happened before the flood. It happened in Romans chapter 1. God was no longer necessary. And so people start to just say there is no God. Well, that's been their experience. They have one purpose, he says, and that is to give their power and authority to the beast. So all the influencers, all the people that are kings in our lives, entertainers, great athletes, talk show hosts, politicians, the rich, those that have all the great influence, those that have the power and the money, those that can, they have $100 billion in the bank and they can just do whatever they want, influence people with all of their money. They attach themselves to a government. That's why you're going to see presidents with all these money people surrounding them. Oh, you want $500 million? Here you go. Here's a check. I'll make that in a week. And all these people are in bed together. I'm not a conspiracy theorist per se, but guys, this isn't rocket science, is it? It's not something that you and I are just like, oh, okay, I didn't know it worked that way. We already know it works that way. And so then they have products that they sell. And all those products are super creamy, wonderful, yummy, entertaining, pleasurable products that make life easier and better. I'm all for the pleasures and the super creamy, yummy stuff and entertainment and making life easier, but not at the expense of forgetting about God. And that's the goal. That's how they attack the church. The church then becomes an obstacle when the church says, now, wait a minute, hold on. God is to be worshiped. God is the provider. In every sentence, we should say, if the Lord wills. God is sovereign. And I'm not going to allow you to put these comforts in my hands to the point where I forget to pray, or I forget to worship the Lord, or I forget to give to the spreading of the gospel. Does this make sense? Is this resonating at all? I thought it would probably be rather simple for you, actually. It sounds really difficult, all these kings and this nation and this woman and drinking until you're drunk. And what in the world are we talking about? Well, it's real simple. People don't want to have their babies. Why? Well, there are some people that are in danger, and I understand that. They could die if they delivered a child. Sure, those are some isolated incidents where I understand that there may be medical procedures to prevent the mom from dying. She has other kids, and I understand that. But in most cases, it's women don't want to be inconvenienced, and so they don't want to start a family right now, so they just abort a baby, right? There are people who are nearly impossible to work with because they just want to not do work. And so they have jobs, they get fired, then they go sue bosses because hey, you're discriminating against me because I'm a bald guy or whatever. And people are in lawsuits today because they really had a goal, and that was to be lazy bums, to get paid for doing nothing. And now we're to the point where if someone wants a business to do something for them and they won't do it the way they want it, they do nothing but gripe and complain. That's all they do, because they wanted something for nothing. How dare you charge me for my products that I wanted to buy? Well, I'll just go to another business because you all aren't giving me a bunch of stuff for nothing. We're just drunk on entertainment. I mean, we literally are drunk. In other words, we want to forget the reality of our relationship with God. We want to forget that we're finite creatures serving an infinite God, that death is inevitable, cemeteries keep growing. We don't want to think about it, so we do everything we can to turn a blind eye because we have lust of the flesh, lust of the eye, and the pride of life. We're trying to live forever and forget that we don't. We even then attack people who would try to remind us of the reality of the finality of life, and that there's an eternity to think about here. And then we do everything we can to fight back. So these will wage war against the Lamb, and the Lamb will overcome them because he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and those who are with him are the called and chosen and faithful. If you're not chosen, you're not going to be able to endure this. You're not. You're absolutely not. You are going to end up attacking the church, attacking the gospel. You're going to attack the truth. It's going on like crazy right now. Yes, in our country. Verse 15, and he said to me, the waters which you saw were the harlot. Where the harlot sits are the peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. So where the harlot sits was a flood of peoples, nations. So from the all throughout the last 2,000 years, the harlot sits where the nations are most influential, that have all the prosperity, so that she can peddle her drunken wares, and whatever that happens to be. Whatever that desire or pleasure is, we get drunk on it and we go way overboard. We are not saying we don't get involved in any of it, that we don't enjoy it. That's where Christians also go wrong, where they start to say, okay, we're going to join a monastery. We're not going to enjoy pleasures. We're not going to have a nice home and watch a great ball game and get involved in the community. And we're not going to go out to eat. We're not going to eatable ice cream. We're not going to sit on our back porch and grill on the Barbie. We're not going to do that. We're going to join a monastery and eat rice cakes. No. What do you mean you're not going to enjoy a beautiful sunrise or sit out under an oak tree or go squirrel hunting? What are you talking about? That's not what we're talking about here. This is just somebody that says, yeah, I can replace all anxiety, stress that would drive me to my God, my maker, my creator, that I need to be worshiping and giving him his due. No, I don't want to do that. I'm going to chase after temporary things to the point where I'm drunk on it, and even watch what happens. And the 10 horns which you saw and the beast, these will hate the harlot. They're going to turn on the harlot. They're going to fight each other, and will make her desolate and naked, and will eat her flesh, and will burn her up with fire. You wonder why there's riots? You wonder why cities are being burned to the ground today as we speak? There are riots, and we are imploding, and we're destroying the things that we've been living on. You wonder why athletes are taking a knee in the greatest country in history, taking a knee when the national anthem is playing? Why would that be a surprise? It's not a surprise. These athletes are making millions of dollars per game. In an hour and a half, they're making millions and millions of dollars to catch a ball. To catch a ball. To hold a ball and run. Whoopity-doo. Hey, watch me dribble the ball and shoot it in a hoop. How much did you get for that shot? $150,000 basically per shot. Oh, really? And what are you going to do? I'm going to hate the country I live in for giving me so much stuff. Doesn't make any sense to you, does it? It shouldn't make any sense to you. It doesn't make any sense to me. But guys, that's exactly what the Bible said would happen. They will attack the very thing that they were enjoying, that made it possible for them to live such a lascivious and luxurious lifestyle. This is why people talk all day long about these horrible foods that are being produced in our country on their way to buy those foods. These horrible, money-hungry, commercialized businesses. Boy, that's good. Yummy, yummy. We hate them, but we enjoy them. It's exactly what he's saying. This is the confusion. It's the great mystery, Babylon. So Babylon says to the woman, I hate you. I'm going to burn you down. I want to destroy you. So Babylon makes up the combination of the nation and the harlot riding on top of the nation. All these pleasures, all these things that have been afforded to people in this nation, it's like a city. Everywhere you see a city in the Bible, you got trouble. The cities try to replace God. The cities charge more and more taxes to make lives more and more luxurious and more easy street. And then the people burn the city down. Happens all the time in every country. And then we read Revelation 17 and say, well, what is that talking about? Oh, we know exactly what it's talking about. We're seeing it right before our eyes today. It's not a new thing. Same thing happens in churches. We build up the church buildings. They get really, really big. And then all of a sudden, what do? We start to attack. People go on the attack. Happens all the time. I know churches that last that long. The church, the body of Christ, lasts forever. It's perfect. But you can't build an organization like that basically is a country club for everybody to have free child care, free play places, and amazing music and so on. Give it a little bit of time, and guess what will happen? People being people. It'll be infiltrated, hostile takeovers. You'll have people controlling the church. Couldn't care less if the gospel is spread because they don't even know it. And what happens? The whole place is a ghost town. You end up selling it off to somebody else because you can't keep it up anymore. They came and they drained you for all it was worth. Same thing happens with the governments. Suck it dry. That's why governments are trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars in debt. Trillions. We can't even fathom that number. Trillions. This is as biblical as anything else there is. This isn't a new thing. And watch what happens. For God has put it in their hearts to execute his purpose. by having a common purpose and by giving their kingdom to the beast until the words of God will be fulfilled. The woman whom you saw is the great city which reigns over the kings of the earth. And what happens to it? It's going to go up in flames. So God says, here's what I'll do. Here's a nation that doesn't keep me first. I will give them great pleasure. Yeah. That's all I got to do. You'll have everything you want. I'll just turn them over to it. You say, well, what are you talking about? Look, all God did was give us perfect things. He gave us pleasures. He gave us taste buds. If you can eat a Twinkie or a piece of cheesecake and your mouth doesn't, your taste buds don't sing the hallelujah chorus, there's something wrong with you. You bite into something or drink a great beverage and you get so stinking excited that your tongue slaps your brain silly. You can't hardly stand it. You just love it. You want to go back for more. Eat 87 Twinkies in one day and see what happens to you. God is not to blame. God's not to blame. God gives us a day of rest. We try to turn it into 6. We try to work one day and have 6 days of rest. God's not to blame. God says, I'll just turn you over to that. You don't retain me in your knowledge. You don't want me to empower you to live each day. You don't want to pray. You don't want to worship me. You don't want to get in my words. You don't want to meditate on my words. You don't want to spend time with me. Okay, I'll turn you over to the desires of your heart. Remember Jesus, Matthew chapter 4, starting in verse 8. What did the devil try to do? Well, here are the kingdoms of the earth. I'll give them to you. And Jesus said, for one thing, the kingdoms were his already. Ultimately, he knew he would have the kingdoms of the earth. But he just said, no, I'll just meditate on my Father's word. I'm going to ask you one question. What's the greatest thing that happens to you every day? The greatest thing that happens to you every day. If you don't say spending time with the Lord for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, the harlot is getting you drunk. That's it. You're drunk. Better sober up. Better sober up. But we've watched it be destroyed in history. We've forgotten history, but we've watched them be destroyed in history. Those things are sinking sand. There's so many things in the Bible. What did Judas. What did Judas learn? Job's friends, but what did Judas learn? Judas got his silver and turned Christ over and had the silver. And then what did he do? He came back and threw the silver at the priests. Now, when he threw the silver, that must have meant he repented and he found joy. Nope. He went and hung himself. What's going to happen is, and it has been happening, people have drunk themselves to death, ate themselves to death, entertained themselves to death, and they woke up and said, I have wasted my life. I just want to die. It doesn't mean you turn back to God, because God turns you over to that. And that overindulgence, where you just go crazy with something, doesn't mean that when you discover that it has left you wanting, that there was really no fulfillment in it, it doesn't mean that you repent. It just means what? You're miserable and you want to die. That's what happened with Judas. It happens all the time. And that's why people get more angry and full of hate, because they see no meaning in life. And now they will believe anything at that point. They will grasp at every straw, but they will not listen to the gospel. They won't. Yeah. So that's why we have so many despairing, hateful people. They're full of hate, they're full of bitterness, they're full of sorrow, but they will not listen to the gospel. It's laid out in Scripture. Okay, that's Revelation 17. Whoa. Well, we've just got 18 to 22 left. I hope you'll dive in there. We're going to go on to the next beast. We've done the mark of the beast, folks. We've done this harlot, Babylon, this woman, this first beast of the sea. And now we'll go on to the beast of the land. And hopefully then you'll be with us and we'll get to the dragon finally falling with the false prophet. God wins. God wins. So if you haven't sided with him yet by placing your faith and trust in the Lord Jesus Christ and in him alone for your salvation, I would implore you to do it before it's eternally too late. Not asking you to join a religion, not asking you to clean up your act. I'm just not. I'm asking you to see your own sin, be real, be honest, and turn to him in faith. And find a good Bible-believing church that really teaches the scriptures. They won't be perfect. I'm not. So they won't be perfect, I know. But I challenge you to do that sooner than later. And worship. All right. So, Lord willing, the creek don't rise. Be with you tomorrow. But if the Lord's not willing, the creek does rise for this old sinner boy. I'll see you at Jesus' feet. Bye now.